Oh, we're live.
We're live.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Haunted Connections show. We apologise about last week. There was a bit of an emergency, so we couldn't bring the show to you last week. But we are here this week, and we are here at the Haunted Antiques Paranormal Research Centre in Hinckley, Leicester.
Are you sure we're here?
Yes, definitely, absolutely. I think so, anyway.
I'm just sharing it out, so I'm not ignoring you.
Yeah, so this week we have our lovely guest, Kate Ray. Hi, Kate.
Hi to you both. How are you doing?
We're doing okay, actually.
Yeah, we're good.
It's
we're
all
good today.
It's all
I'm not.
good.
I'm going to turn my phone off, so my mum can't phone me. These oldies who decide to get sent to hospital just before I'm doing a show with Barry John.
Yeah,
it's just not good enough.
We can rearrange that, and I'm sure Barry didn't mind.
No,
but tonight we are speaking with Kate, who's one of our speakers for the ParaMeet, and our intention is to have a speaker every week running up to the Midlands ParaMeet. So we're very excited, and I just absolutely love speaking to Kate because we love the fairies, don't we, Kate?
We do, and it's so nice to speak to other fairy people as well. I think when you speak to other fairy people, you don't sound as bonkers as you do to the rest of the community.
I'm not being ignorant. I'm just going to share it. I'll be with you in a second.
So, for anybody that doesn't know you, Kate, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a paranormal investigator. I have another hat as well, which is I'm part of the Fairy Investigation Society. So there is crossovers between the two quite a lot. I write for Haunted Magazine, and I'm also a now published author of a book about the Woollerton Gnomes. So that's me in a little nutshell.
Yes, I got your book and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The Woolly Snots. Yes, it's a brilliant little book. So
thank you.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that title?
I didn't. I didn't. I am going to sound like a complete lunatic. So when I was writing, I was writing an academic paper for a book for the Fairy Investigation Society about the Woollerton Gnomes, and it was looking at the case from a research perspective. And when I'd finished that, I had so many questions about the case that were going over and over in my brain, and I just kept getting these images in response to these questions, and they were coming out of nowhere. And so the very first thing when I knew I had to write these down and I knew I was going to put this book together was I had this wondering what I was going to call the book. And for me, my idea was to call it The Curious Case of the Woollerton Gnomes. I kept getting, you've got to call it the Woolly Snots. It was insistent. It was insistent. So Woolly comes from Woollerton, so that's an abbreviation of Woollerton, and Snots comes from Snottingham, which is the old name for Nottingham. And put together, I hated it to start off with. I was adamant that I didn't want to use this title because I don't know. I just didn't like it. But I think I was channeling. That's the only thing I can say when I sat and wrote this book. I wrote it in 7 days. I hand wrote it. It was 38,000 words. And I couldn't stop. I got up in the morning and I couldn't stop. And every time I asked a question about where's this going, what happened next, I was receiving really clear images. And I kind of semi-joke that I was channeling the gnomes at the time. And it very much felt like I had that energy around me for quite a long time. I know you guys will understand this woo-woo stuff. I really do. Yeah. So I felt like I had their energy around for a long time, and a long time after I completed the book. So I've had a very good friend of mine who's an author who knows my style of writing. He messaged me after he read it and he said, Kate, that's not you talking. That's not your style of writing. And I told him, and I said, I don't feel like I wrote it. I feel like I was used as a vessel. I was used by the gnomes.
Yeah.
Well, that's nothing wrong being used by the gnomes, is it?
But I think that's a good thing, isn't it? When you I always feel, when you're working with spirit or the fae, because you're sort of compelled to do it. And there is no, this is what we need you to do for us. This is what we want you to do, and you are sort of compelled to do it. And not a lot of people sort of understand that, but when you're, when you can speak to like-minded people, you find it's a lot more common than you think it is.
Yeah, but even so, when you say it out loud, you do get that, I'm sounding like a nutter here, you still get that sense of, I'm sounding slightly crazy, but you're absolutely right. It's a compulsion, and it's something that you can't get away from, even though, I tried to change that title. I tried to have a look around that title, but I've got on with it now. I'm fine with the title now, because it is a ridiculous case. It's a ridiculous true story. So it deserved a slightly ridiculous title, but I kept my subtitle of The Curious Case of the Wollerton Gnomes.
Okay, but don't you think a title like that sort of brings people in anyway? Because I think, well, do you think the so-called normal people in society think, well, what the hell is that about?
Yeah,
not really knowing what it's about. Because
yeah, definitely, and it's definitely got that sort of childlike quality about it, isn't it? It's, kids like snot and stuff like that, so it's got that kind of childishness about it as well, which is nice, because although it was never intended to be written for any sort of age range, there is adult undertones to a lot of the book. It is a child friendly story as well. So although I don't know a lot of kids who've read it, the majority of the people who've bought it have been adults, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
So they obviously don't regard you as a nutter now.
I think everybody regards me as a nutter, but I think people just accept that I am.
Okay, let's talk about ParaMeet South, because unfortunately you couldn't make it, could you, Kate?
No, and I was so jealous seeing everybody's posts about it.
Yeah, and I've said this before. We missed you.
We did miss you.
Honestly,
Aww.
I'm not just saying it because we're talking to you. We miss you because you've done everyone previously.
Yeah.
And we missed Kate Sherrill because she couldn't make it. And we missed Andy Saw from the Haunted magazine because
he wasn't there.
He couldn't make it either. And it's nice that you are, and all three of you. Hopefully, Andy can make it at the Midlands. All three of you are back at the Midlands, so it's going to be like the family's back together. Do you know what I mean? Because
yeah.
At the ParaMeet, we like to have the core of speakers and then throw some more in the mix as well. So it'd be nice to sort of have the family back together.
Yeah, it will.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So do you know what you're talking about yet?
I do. Yeah, I do. So I am going to be talking about the Wollerton Gnomes. So, but with this, obviously, because it's me, I can't do things straightforward. It's going to have an agenda to it, if you like, a positive agenda to look at a different angle from a paranormal perspective. And because I'm now well into 2 years research into this and the different ways where that's happened, it's definitely given me some different insights into things that we can cross-pollinate between the Fairy Investigation Society and the paranormal community, and vice versa. So looking at what works well and what doesn't work well within a research context. But I've never done at ParaMeet a straightforward telling of the story of the Wollerton Gnomes, and I think people are aware of it. So I'll start it off with that, and then I'll look out into a broader context of the research that we've been undertaking.
Because last year's ParaMeet, I think you even shocked me the way you started your talk.
I can't remember much of my talk, honestly. I sleep and I forget.
You sort of give out instances of occurrences, and you ask people what category would you, and I thought, oh, that's really interesting, because everyone got it wrong, didn't they? Let's face it.
Yeah, pretty much, and I can totally understand why, and it's interesting because that information came from the very first fairy census that Dr. Simon Young did, and that was 2014. He's recently published the second census, which has actually had to come out in three or maybe four volumes. So it was massive. The last census was massive, and even just flicking through the second census, there has been a shift in what people attribute to fairy encounters. So the ones that I read out from the first census that could be crossed over into either haunting, poltergeist, or whatever, were very few and far between in the first fairy census. This next one is even more shockingly close. You know, the closeness between people believing, whereas before they'd have believed that they were being haunted by poltergeist activity or a malevolent spirit, they're now seeing subtleties that make them think that it may be fairy encounters that they've been having. So that's definitely increased over those two bodies of work, really. So super interesting bits of data that go into that. It's an incredible piece of work.
Do you think because of all the development and the house building and the ripping up of the countryside and everything else, do you think that's sort of anything to do with this, you know, with more people believing in the Fae and more Fae sort of coming into people's homes to do things? Because I know I've been on quite a few investigations to people's homes where the Fae have been involved.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's one contributing factor. I think there's lots of different threads. I think for me, one of the biggest triggers was during the lockdown period that people were having more interactions in nature, going out into nature, and there seemed to be a massive boom in things like fairy doors and people putting fairy trails up just randomly and and off their own bat within woodlands, and there's many reasons why there was a raising consciousness of the fairies in that period of time. I think people wanted that magic in their lives, and I think that that's elevated. That was the kind of a starting point for the elevation, but definitely disturbances of the earth, definitely especially if it's like woodlands or wild places that have been ploughed down and developed. As you know, places like islands, they'll build whole roads around one tree because some old boy from over the hills come down and said there's a fairy that lives there, and none of the construction team will touch it, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I think that's definitely a thread of the rise in activity from them.
Do you think the sort of belief in the Fae is growing?
Yeah, I do. And I definitely think that there has been a change in our understanding as well. I think we are definitely shifting more towards a truer, more ancestral pagan view of the fairies. I think we're shifting away from the Disney cartoon idea. I mean, I've seen in the last 3 years, while I've been sort of promoting the idea that the Fae aren't these things, people are definitely more accepting. When I first started out on this, I was butting heads with people, the ridicule and the poking and stuff, and that stopped. And it was interesting. I watched a snippet of the Dead Files the other night. I haven't kept up with it for years, but they had a new psychic medium on, very sort of slim lady with dark hair. I don't know whether you watch it, I'm sure you do, but she actually shocked me because she talked about the elementals in this property that they were looking at. And for me, seeing that from the American TV shows, and it's not the first one I've seen with reference recently, is a marked shift. And it wasn't there was no bat of an eyelid when she said it. There was no questioning. It was just she'd seen them, she knew they were there, and she knew what activity that was occurring in that place. So yeah, definitely a rise in consciousness with it.
Yeah, because we've noticed that, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you talk to people and you think, oh, they're going to think I'm a nutter, but they don't. I admit, well, I've always said this when we talk to you, Kate, until we talked to you the first time a few years ago now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I probably didn't believe in the Fae. But after talking to you, and you do make a lot of sense. And then Jane, we've come across the Fae, haven't we? We've been to people's homes.
Yeah.
But people tend to watch the Hollywood films and the things mischievous or things not so pleasant happening in the house. They immediately think the demon route.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's not.
No.
I say to people at the centre now, I says, I would sooner sit in a room with a demon than a fairy.
A disruptive fairy.
Because we've had it one night when we were doing recording in the attic.
Yeah.
The Fae came in, didn't they? And they were really being mischievous, weren't they?
Yeah. But it's a lovely mischievous, but it's a different type of energy altogether. It's such an excitable sort of mischievous energy, and I think a lot of people can get sort of mixed up with that, because a lot of people will just sense an energy there and then automatically just assume that it's something dark or demonic or something like that, and it's we've just found that that's not the case, haven't we?
Definitely. Yeah. And I think as well with fairies, it's with demonics, we have almost a concrete protocol in how to deal with that as humans. We have lines that we can go down to banish them, to help ourselves in that situation. With the fairies, because we've lost so much of our historical kind of connection with them, dealing with them is very different, and it's they're not going to respond in the same way as demonics or spirits of the dead are, to try and get rid of them out of that situation. But I'm like you, I get really giddy when that energy is about, and I love it. And other people are quite frightened about that energy, because the vibrations are very, very high off them. And I have had mediums with me before who have stepped back and said, I can't cope with this. Whereas I'm like, this is brilliant. I'm kind of buzzing from it.
Yeah, get more in.
Sounds like Jane, that
bring all your mates.
Yeah.
I've got a nice bowl of sweeties. Come and get some.
Yeah.
So do you think, because I think with the paranormal, especially with the paranormal on the YouTube and the TV, it's gone very demonic and very dark and all this. Do you think we'll ever come to a stage where we go past the demonic route and we go more to the Fae route? Can you see that being the next stage in the paranormal genre?
I would love it to go into that. I mean, if there's anybody out there listening who wants to put me in a program about fairies in that sense, then I'm all up for that, definitely. Unfortunately, I think demons sell. And I think that's the crux of the matter. When you're producing a program, having that scare factor, people watch paranormal programs outside of the paranormal community. When people watch them, they watch them for the jump scare. They watch them because we want to be frightened by it, and that darker side almost checks us, doesn't it, and says, if there's darkness, there's got to be light. And you turn the TV off, and a lot of the time people have put a comedy on afterwards just to sort of bring themselves back into reality. I think the Fae are very, very complex, and how you deal with them is very complex. I think it would make definitely a very different kind of paranormal show. And I don't think the jump scares would be there. I think the reason is, at one time we had really strong relationships with the Fae. Not all of them, but we had really, really strong relationships with them. And I believe, and there are a lot of people out there believe, that those connections and those relationships haven't quite been lost like we believed they had. And building back up those relationships is something that a lot of the Fae want as well, but it's knowing how to do that. So it's very, very different. Nobody wants a relationship with a demon, really, not on a permanent basis. Sit down and have a cup of tea with them, and then everybody goes home. It would make such an interesting series of documentaries, though. It really would, because when documentaries have been done about fairies before, there have been serious documentaries. I mean, other than The Fairy Faith, which is a fantastic documentary, the people portrayed in it are portrayed in a way, and I can understand why, that they are very woo-woo, they are very love and light, which is, it's lovely. There are people in the community that are like that, but it never seems to give it that serious spin that ghost hunting gets, you know. I'd love it. I would absolutely love it, though.
Yeah, it would be a breath of fresh air, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
And
Because they're just so not what people think they are. I mean, several times, you know, when I go walking in the woods and things, if I'm feeling a bit upset or a bit down and that, I will sit down and I will talk to them and I will tell them and how I'm feeling and stuff like that. And there's no sympathy whatsoever. And they end up then just taking the mickey out of me and laughing at me. And it just makes you turn your whole way of thinking around as to working with them. Because they are really quite unsympathetic, and they're just not. They'll just take the mickey out of you, even if you're sitting crying. It just and then you just think, well, what am I crying for?
Exactly, it's exactly that. I was talking to a fairy artist yesterday. I had a walk around Sherwood Forest with a lovely fairy artist, and I was saying exactly the same thing. So we were discussing about the nature of fairies, and I said that the one overarching thing throughout their whole kingdom is they love taking the piss out of humans. That it's mockery is just, they don't understand us. They don't understand these things like extreme emotions, like, you know, crying over things that they are bewildered by, you know, that wouldn't even touch their realm. And but you're right, it brings us back into how important is this, you know, that I'm upset about it, or how important is it that I'm excited about it. It puts lots of things into perspective. Yeah, they're an interesting bunch, aren't they?
Yeah. It's I really enjoy working with them. I do.
I think it'd be an interesting project if we could get it off the ground, actually.
Yeah.
And we've just got the network to do it, haven't we? GPN.
Yeah.
When it's up and running. Yeah, I've got to tell everybody about Ghost Planet Network. It's offline at the minute. The reason I've actually spoken to the hosts in America today, it's because it's grown so fast and so quick, and the viewing figures are so high that we've got to upgrade the app.
That's brilliant.
Well, it would have been nice for them to tell me, but you know, I can't complain, can I? So GPM might be off. She said up to a week, but it might be a couple of days.
Yeah.
So it's good news in really.
Yeah, it is good. It is good.
Because we've got lots more plans.
Yeah.
Got lots more ideas yet.
Lots more stuff in the pipework.
Faye could be one of them. Who knows?
I think so.
We got a perfect.
Yeah.
Do you like the term expert, Kate? How would you describe yourself in the world of the Fae?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know. An advocate. I think that's probably the best way of putting it.
It's a good word, isn't it?
Yeah,
I like that word.
Yeah, because you're very good at sort of promoting them and looking after them and sort of overseeing that, you know, things are sort of done right with them, and it's very interesting to hear you talk with with the interviews and the people that you speak to and everything else, and it's all geared up around, you know, sort of like you say, promoting and being that advocate for the Fae.
I didn't choose the job, by the way. I think they definitely chose me for this one. It was plonked squarely into it. So yeah, I think advocate. I think expert. It's a difficult one, isn't it, in this field? I mean, I was always under the impression that expert means that you have 10,000 hours worth of work into something. Which, yeah, in saying that, I've definitely clocked up 10,000 hours. But how can you be? I mean, I just at the back of me hear the fairies going, expert. What? What? Expert?
Yeah, it's like, lads, come and listen to this.
Yeah, exactly. What's that then? I think it is a difficult one. I know I would like to find. I would like to find a term that sits well within the paranormal community as well. And the word fairies definitely get in there. And I mean, a lot of the programs use the term elementals because it's more easily digestible for people as a term than fairies. You know, when you say elementals, people go, "Oh, what's that? Oh, it's nature spirits,"
Yeah.
and people can grasp that concept very, very quickly. But you say fairies, and we've got all this connotation in our head preset, haven't we? Before we even embark on talking about them. So,
and
that's
the fae, the world of the fae encompasses so much, doesn't it?
yeah.
One of my favourites is Pilly Wiggins.
Pilly Wiggins.
Pilly Wiggins, the little fairies.
I've never heard of
But
them.
there's just
I'm showing my ignorance here. I do apologise, ladies.
But there's just such a vast array to the Fey world, and I just find it so interesting.
Yeah, I honestly can't. I can't see a TV production company going with that sort of idea, because it is outside the comfort zone, isn't it, of acceptance by the general public.
Yeah.
But hey, GPN is a bit of a weird. He's run by a weird guy, isn't it?
Very weird.
So watch this space. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So when did you start getting into the Fae or the fairies?
I don't know ever a time when the concept of that wasn't part of the concept of the world for me. I never really questioned it. I wasn't a child that ever saw them, but I knew that they were there. And I was brought up on Lord of the Rings, being read to, and growing up in Sherwood Forest, and there's lots of places that have different energies around the area. I never even questioned it that it didn't exist. Even going through my teenage years, it was just I just accepted that there was something other than the material realm that we lived in, and it encompassed this fairy realm along with the spirits of the dead, along with everything else. I never questioned it. It's always been there, I think.
That's good.
I thought I seen some when I was a child, the first time I seen them.
Yeah.
And I was out walking with my dad, and there was this sort of pool of water. It was like a little pond type thing where the trees were. And we stopped to have a bit of a picnic. And I was sitting on this log, and I could swear I saw a little person sitting on the back of a dragonfly with their wings, and there was sort of 2 or 3 of them on these dragonflies. And when you sort of look at it, and then you sort of blink, and then because the dragonflies were moving quite quickly, and then you think, did I see that? Did I? Is that what I just saw?
Yeah.
And I more or less, I sort of questioned it for such a long time. And then but I could swear I saw these little people sitting on the back of dragonflies.
Oh, I wish I could see things you see. So do you actually see them, Kate? Or do you just sense them?
I've had more psychic encounters than I have physical encounters. I have had a few physical encounters, but more recently, since becoming a paranormal investigator, actually, I've had more psychic encounters with them. And that's because when I became a paranormal investigator, I decided that I wanted to hone my skills down on mediumship skills, amongst other things. I wanted to make sure that I was doing everything I could to have an enhanced experience when I was going out on paranormal evenings. And I discovered very soon, having been sitting in a mediumship circle, that I was crap at it, because the dead just wouldn't talk to me. I found it very, very difficult to call them in. And then I'd call them in, and they just weren't bothered. I do get bits and bobs, and when I do, I know it's kind of very, very strong, and but I was getting these other things, and to be completely honest with you, it got me kicked out of that circle, because I encountered one being that was I'd seen it twice, and I had to tell the rest of the circle what I was seeing. and it was quite a hideous creature. And I'm not quite sure if it was Fey realm, but it was definitely there because we were creating this psychic energy, and it was just watching, and it was kind of waiting for the weakest link. That's the feeling that I got. And it got me booted out of Circle because apparently I frightened a couple of the women in there. Yeah, yeah. So from then going into properties, obviously, you know, going out on an event, we have access to properties before the public come in, and it's especially apparent when I go into a new venue or a new property. That freshness, I can go round and I can see what's about on that psychic level without any disturbance. And increasingly I was coming across different varieties of fairies, none of them winged, none of them particularly pretty. I mean, I'm quite jealous of people who have experiences with winged fairies on the back of dragonflies. It's definitely something that I'm jealous of, because I don't encounter that lot. I encounter the sort of more snarly, gnarly lot, really. But I've learned to love them, and I've learned to get on with them and communicate with them. So yeah, more on the psychic level. I have, like I say, over the years had a couple of physical encounters.
So do you ever find on paranormal investigations with guests that when they find out what you do, that they think, I'm not sure about this?
I don't think I've ever had that reaction outwardly. It's more of my teammates really who take the piss out of me with it.
Well, they would, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, we know Phil, bless him. I love
Yeah.
Phil to bits, but he's still not convinced about the fairy thing. So anytime I mention it, he rolls his eyes and makes some makes some comment about it. But no guests. I've had a couple of occasions where I've been absolutely compelled, and I don't do this very often. I call it leaky mediumship, where you just kind of randomly go up to people and say, "I've got a message for you." It has to be so strong that I can't stop myself from doing it. But I've had a couple of guests over the years that I've had to talk to them about something that I've had a vision of that's occurring in their property that's to do with Fae. One of them ended up on Help My House is Haunted, but I didn't know that. They'd already filmed it. This was years ago. And I didn't know that they had been on and they'd come along as Barry's guests to one of our investigations. And I was telling them stuff saying, yeah, I think this happens and think this happens and think this happens. They're going, oh, yeah. And then Barry came up and said, I can confirm that because we've investigated. And I was like, this is just too weird. And he hadn't told me anything because he couldn't, because the production hadn't gone out then. So yeah, I've not had negative reaction. Curious, people have been curious, but nothing rude or negative.
Well, that's good. That's good, isn't it? Your question for Kate?
Yes. Is there a book number 2 coming out?
I was asked that yesterday. It's always a kind of yes, there is. I'm trying to entice the gnomes back to tell us the second part of the tale, a more modern and up to date part of the tale. They're being a bit elusive at the minute, so as soon as I can get them back on side, I'll start that. And I have been working continuously on a book now for a couple of years. That's completely separate. That's a bit more serious, and yeah, I keep going back to that and coming away from it and going back to that. I actually just sat down tonight and thought I've got to get back to doing that. So yeah,
do you think they're they sort of get busy and they sort of have their own things going on? Because one of the things I found is when I sort of go out into the woods to sort of, you know, look for the Fae or to do anything with the Fae, you can tell if there's like one of the pagan festivals coming up, say like May Day, because the excitement and the sort of the sheer sort of buzzing of the energies there is really so different from when it normally is. And I find that more of them are coming out and more of them are sort of there when these sort of festivals are coming up. But also, do you think that the shift. There's sort of shifts in energy, because I found that when we were getting all this, the northern lights all over the country, the shift in energy was quite different. And I found during that time, when I was out walking to sort of see, they were quite elusive. They were quite sort of, they weren't really, it was almost like they were sort of hiding or staying out of the way while this sort of stuff was going on.
Yeah, I mean that you make a good point there about the festivals. I mean, you know that Beltane and Samhain are, the Vales at the absolute thinnest, and they are the festivals of the fairies first and foremost, sort of opposite ends of the year. So we're going to have more connection. We're going to see more. We're going to feel the vibrations of them more. I think. Maybe just off the top of my head, the energy was so weird with the Northern Lights. We'd had massive solar flares influxing on the planet that apparently caused these lights to occur. The strangest phenomenon, and how far down. There's whole kinds of rafts of theories of what was going off. But maybe that was because of our excitement. We were actually going out at their time, and we were going into their environments en masse. So people, from 9 o'clock till 12 o'clock at night, people going out into fields, into woods, open spaces to take photos of the Northern Lights. Now we know that this is the time when the fairies come out, when it's quiet and there's not many people around. So maybe they were completely like bamboozled by energy that they hadn't encountered before from us, going into their environment at their particular time when they're around and about.
Yeah. Do you think the solar flare itself would have affected them? Because that's like a bombardment, isn't it, of a completely different energy? And I sort of felt that they'd sort of gone to ground a bit, perhaps to avoid that energy.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, we know that it affects electronics, etc. So the pulse is that strong. I woke up on the Saturday morning with a nosebleed. I hadn't had a nosebleed since I was a teenager, and I did think, oh, is that connected with this strong energy that's flying about at the minute? But I think you might be right, because this weekend we went as an investigation society back to Woollerton Park to do one of our investigations, and it felt very different than the previous 2 times when we've been on site. One of the interesting things that came out of that, we had a new member. He's not new to us, but a new member joined us for that Woollerton trip. Lovely guy called Rob Wildwood, who writes about the fairies. He's got
and the places, the
magical places. He's such a lovely guy. And at the very end of the day, we were doing a bit of filming for it, and at the end of the day, we asked him his opinion, and we'd just done a meditation, and he said during the meditation he'd come across the head gnome, and the head gnome was a little bit annoyed that we were there. A, we hadn't introduced ourselves, and B, they didn't understand what we wanted from them. And we had not even introduced ourselves, even at the very beginning, and we were like, how rude, we just hadn't even thought about it. So we came up with this term of gnome botherers. So we've up until that point, we've been gnome botherers.
Okay, Jane's got a question for you. Jane is another speaker.
Oh, hello, Jane.
Jane Mortimer. Question for Kate: what would you be doing now if you weren't doing Fae?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, everything's interconnected. So the artwork that I do is definitely interconnected. The Fae's interconnected with the paranormal that I do. It's kind of every thread sort of has joined and run together. That's definitely occurred over the last 7 years for me. And to unpick the Fae out of it, I think it would. I think it would fall to pieces for me. I think everything would sort of disintegrate. It's a good question, though. I don't know. Maybe I would be some kind of modern dancer. I really don't know.
Modern dancer?
I don't know. What do you think I'd be doing if I wasn't doing the Fae thing?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. I think you'd still be in that sort of thing, but maybe you wouldn't be working with the real Fae. Perhaps you'd be something like doing illustrations, or I don't know. I sort of see you as some sort of perhaps a bit of an artist that would you know, if you weren't actually working with the Fae, I think you would still have that influence, and you would probably be doing, you know, drawing, writing, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't think I can get away with it. Like I say, it wasn't it wasn't my choice. I don't think.
I do believe that we are destined to be on the path that we're on, and you know, this path was clearly created for you, and for the work that you do. And I do believe that we're all on our own paths to do and to contribute to, you know, the bigger picture.
I agree, and I think people come into your path when they needed to.
Yeah.
Now, for the first time we chatted to you, Kate, it was good for me. Obviously, I know Jane believed in the Fae anyway, but it was good for me because it sort of made me think.
Yeah, well, I believed in the Fae since I was little, since seeing those things, and I've always believed in the Fae. But it's been one of those things where I think up until recently has been sort of a fairly taboo thing. If you mention fairies to anybody, they just laugh at you, or, you know, like you say, they just shut you down or tell you it's nonsense or you're imagining it and all that sort of thing. So you just don't really mention it and you keep quiet.
Definitely.
Okay, so comment. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say that's definitely an English thing. You know, you go into Ireland or Scotland or even Cornwall and Devon, and talking about the Fae, you're told to shut up basically for your own safety because of the belief there. You know, you come up further into England, and you know, and it is a taboo. It's a strange thing that we can be so closely connected to, you know, Scotland, Ireland, and you know, parts of the UK that believe in fairies so much, even in this modern world, and then we're so utterly disconnected in the bulk of the country.
Yeah. Okay. Kerry says, I've seen a fairy at Alton Towers in the gardens there. It was quite surreal. Jane says, I think you'd be looking for the thing that makes you whole, like the path you've chosen. Paul Goddard says you were missed at ParaMeet Southgate by lots of people.
Oh, bless.
Yes, she was. It's strange, isn't it? You know, we've done 3 ParaMeets. Is it 3? We've done 3 so far, and it's strange that if one part of the jigsaw is not there, it's sort of
it's not quite complete,
whole.
Is it?
It's not whole. Yeah.
You didn't miss me that being there bothering you then, because I'm always one of the ones that are. You're going to do another one then? You're going to do another? Are you going to put on one next year?
Well, I've said that before we even started now, so I've gave up with that sort of. I've gave up with that carrot. No,
good.
Lorianne always used to say, didn't she?
Yeah.
And I always, you know, I always says, I'm not sure about doing another one. Vicky says we missed you at Southgate, so everyone missed you, see, Kate.
That's really nice to know. I honestly, like I said, I was so jealous seeing people's posts, and it. I mean, it's always going to be fabulous. You know, the people it attracts, and I've got to say, going, because I rock up on my own. I don't just feel welcome. I feel genuinely, warmly welcomed by every single person in that place. You know, and it's so easy. It's such an easy space to talk about the paranormal in any context and share stories, and it's very easy. There's nothing disjointed about it. It feels, I know you guys work so hard on it, but it feels so relaxed. You know, there's no bad vibes, and there's no egos, and it's just such a lovely environment.
No drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you remove the egos and the drama out of the paranormal, it would be such a nice, well, even more nice place to be, or feel to be in. But
I think you've got a certain community, sort of like the people who go to the ParaMeet, that haven't got that agenda with things. They willingly want to work with people. They willingly want to share and learn, and sort of embrace all that this paranormal community has got to offer. And I think it's only small pockets of people that are just sort of that's got no interest in engaging in that nice side of it, and all they want to do is have drama and conflict and egos and all that stuff. And I think we're really lucky to have the community that we've got.
Yeah, definitely some absolutely outstanding people go. And I'm more than excited for next month. I really am really looking forward to it.
It's soon coming round, isn't it?
It's 6 weeks on Saturday. 6 weeks on Saturday.
Yeah, it is coming round.
Now ask me if I'm ready.
Are you ready?
No, nowhere near.
Ask me if I'm ready. I haven't even started
you
writing my
ready?
talk yet. No. You know, I'm looking forward to it that much that I keep forgetting that I've got to do a talk.
Well, that's good though, isn't it? I know some people, a couple of people, quite stressed about what they're going to talk about, and I says, "Don't worry about it. Just ramble on like that's all I do." To be honest, my worst introduction was this year down the south because I made notes. And normally I just blag it and it just goes okay. But this year I made notes and I didn't know what to talk about because I'd done them all. Okay, another couple of comments. Mikey says there's those that believe in that fairies abducted folk in the Middle Ages. Could have been alien abductions, as supposedly aliens can make you see them as they want.
Yes, definitely. And fairies can can change their appearance as well. So there is lots and lots of crossovers between the theories of that. So if you're interested in that and the crossovers and the crosslinks between all paranormal, there is a really good book by, and I'm going to get this wrong, The Ecology of Souls by Joshua Cutchins. I interviewed him. I bought the book. It's a tombstone. It's actually two books, but they're tombstones. It's just such a body of work. I will get 5 pages into it, have to put it down and absorb it for about 10 days before I can come back to the concepts because they're just mind blowing. It's really easy read, but processing time is definitely needed. He speaks greatly about the crossovers as well in the links and is it all the same or or is it different, is it separate, or I love it. It's mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling, but there is massive concurrent themes that run through alien abduction and fairy abduction, and it wasn't just to the Middle Ages, right the way up into modern times where people have described either alien abductions or fairy abductions, that the similarities are incredible. They are incredible.
Vicky says Midlands will be epic.
It will be epic. It's going to be brilliant. I'm just trying because I'm speaking on the Saturday, aren't I?
Oh, I don't know.
I think you said I'm speaking on the Saturday because I kind of went, woo! I can have a drink on the Saturday night.
Yeah, it is. It is going to be epic, and it's going to be the biggest one yet. We're going to need microphone for the speakers. You know, the room. Seriously, the room is that big.
Oh dear.
It's going to be good fun.
It's going to be. Plus, the good thing about it, one of the criticisms I had over the years is that the vendors couldn't see the speakers. I tried it last year when I streamed it live, and that just didn't work. But this year, most of the stores are in the same room as the speakers.
Brilliant. That is really good.
The room is big enough.
Yeah.
Obviously, the mediums and tarot readers won't be in that room, because they might be doing mediumship readings. So it's going to be amazing. It really is. Are you excited?
I am. I'm getting it now. No, it's only 6 weeks away.
6 weeks.
Yes, sort of.
Okay, Vicky says he hasn't got a clue who is speaking when, Kate.
No.
No, Vicky,
Have you got a list?
I have got a list somewhere, yeah. Don't ask me where.
Yeah, I'm sure I asked you, and you said it was Saturday. I was giving a talk because I remember distinctly thinking, "Brilliant! I can have a drink on Saturday night then, and not be like nervous about being slightly delicate the next day."
And the awards is going to be crazy.
Going to be brilliant.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
All I'll say is I want everyone to join in on the Saturday night after the awards. Well, after the awards, but during the night. Okay, Jane says, I can't wait. Hubby is coming with me. That's good. My first ParaMeet talk. Haven't started it yet. Don't worry, Jane. You everyone's going to be fantastic. Vicky says, I have got a head style microphone and stereo, Neil, if that helps. I don't know what head style, Michael. Is that something that goes around your head? I don't know.
One of these.
Like one of them, possibly. We'll talk to you. You come. Hopefully, you come in Saturday, Vicky. We'll talk to you. So yeah, it's ParaMeet Midlands is going to be special. I think the way we're going to work it is that's going to be the sort of highlights of the ParaMeet year.
Yeah, we're hoping it's going to be. We want it to be a success. So then that we're hoping that it's going to be an annual event that that we can do and recognise people in the paranormal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any getting out of it now. I think it's set in stone that that's what it's going to be.
So when I announced there's going to be 3 I announced it last year. Were you surprised? Were you thinking, oh, you've gone from not doing another one, Neil, to doing 3? That's what these guys thought.
Exactly. But I mean, after I got over my shock, I just thought, you know what, if you're going to do it big or go home, So good for you,
Exactly.
It was brilliant.
And I've got more plans for next year as well.
Oh.
Watch this space.
So you've gone from, I can't deal with this anymore, I'm not doing it ever again, to like, I'm going to take over the world.
Yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
you.
Mikey says, Jack Villiers, the UFO investigated over years of research, came to the conclusion that alien abduction was actually demons and demonic. What do you think to this?
I think there's massive crossovers with ideas of demonics, massive crossovers with it all. I think when it comes down to it, research is personally swayed, and if somebody has a leaning towards something, I'm assuming that this leaning for me is a religious leaning, because demonics to me are religiously attached. But yeah, there is definite crossovers. We were just talking about it earlier, where that the Fae can display what is known as demonic behavior. They do scratch, they do pinch, they do bite, they pull hair, which would be attributed to probably a lesser demonic behavior, but actually the fairies do that too. It's and it's hard to distinguish, because we are in this material realm. It's hard to distinguish which is which, because we're not on that vibrational level that they are, to be able to categorically see what's going off.
Vicky says, I was surprised then so excited.
Oh, how about you doing more?
Me doing 3. The rest of the guys didn't know until the Sunday morning. I came up with that idea Saturday night when I went to bed. And I just thought, well, because a lot of people, quite a few people says they would have come, but it's so far away from where they live, or they can't make that date. I thought, oh, okay, then if we go further afield, we give more people the options. And ParaMeet South did work.
It did, didn't it? It was really good.
I remember you on that Saturday going, no, and I kept saying to you, are we going to do another one? Are you going to do another one? No. Between Saturday morning and Sunday morning, that's a real turnaround. It's brilliant.
Yeah. You wait till this. You wait till ParaMeet Midlands announcement.
Oh God!
I'll tell you before, Jay. Don't worry. I'll tell you on the Sunday morning. Well, you got to keep the suspense going, haven't you?
Definitely.
But Vicky says, I remember that too, Kate. Yeah. I just like teasing people.
You weren't teasing. You were adamant, absolutely adamant. Nope, not doing it again.
Yeah, I must admit though, organising it is hard work. Organising one is really hard work, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then when you see the people come and people enjoy themselves, you think, yeah, it's worthwhile doing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And it was nice to have the social area that we had last time, wasn't it? Because people just sat around and just chatted, and that was one of the big things about finding, the right venue, because that was one of the big things that people wanted, to be able to sit and just chat with each other. And we struggled with that in Bosworth because there wasn't really anywhere to sit, and they closed the bar early, and people were then sort of just sitting in the corridor and that sort of thing, just because they just wanted to talk to each other. But that is one of the really important aspects of the ParaMeet. I think it's just letting people being able to talk and chat and catch up and share information.
Yeah. Okay, another question from Mikey. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Is there any chance that the TV show Help My House is Haunted doing a show at the Hinckley site? Okay, obviously Kate can't answer it. I can answer it. No. That's it.
I think they mainly do residential houses anyway, don't they? They don't tend to do sort of commercial properties as such. So it's
I think they go into locations to sort of help the house to remove whatever's causing problems.
To sort of get to the bottom of it, isn't it? And to remove whatever they have to. But we don't like them. We don't want them being removed from here.
And I think you guys investigate enough yourself, and with other people coming in to do investigations, that you have a really broad knowledge of what's there, what energies are there, and you are dealing with it all the time, where the help crew come in and the people don't know in the property what energies are in there in there with them, and that's a big part of the work that they do. And then the cleansing aspect, you don't want to be out of business.
No, well, that is it's in the title of the show, isn't it? Help My House is Haunted. No, I've got total respect for the guys, but sorry, but we don't need help. I don't mean to sound horrible. I'm sure.
No, but the concept of the show really is it. That's what it is, isn't it? Going into people's homes and helping them with problems.
Yeah.
Helping them with issues that are there with spirit and other stuff, and finding out what's there and then dealing with it so the people can live in their homes properly. Well, that's not the case here, is it?
No,
we don't live here. And
Barry's watching. Barry Guy's watching. Thanks for watching, Barry. Barry says that you do have an event. I think you got 2 more events here this year. So if you want to investigate with the guys, with Kate and Phil and Barry, you can book on with him. So that's an investigation. Vicky says, I'll try and get it out of him on Saturday night. You can try. I would. Well, it's nearly 9 o'clock. It's gone very quick again, isn't it?
Hasn't it?
Yeah. So, of course, Kate, you do your own podcast as well, Kate, don't you?
I do, yes. I host Her in the Hawthorn on YouTube.
Yeah. And it's also on Ghost Planet Network.
Of course, yeah. I keep forgetting that, and I do. When I do remember, I get quite excited that it's on there as well. So that began specifically looking at fairies for the paranormal community. Just in a nutshell, it was I was being asked questions about the fairies. I didn't feel like I was qualified or an expert to be able to answer those questions. So I decided to get people in who I trusted to talk about how they work with the fae and what their understanding of the fae is. It kind of deviates a little bit into other aspects and talking about other things, but all within that Fortean umbrella. And along the way, I bagged myself a very fine co-host in Dr. Neil Rushton, who we do joke that we're Mulder and Scully. I'm very much, I'm a believer. I'm going to go after this, and he's very much so. Whoa, Kate. Let's look at this from an academic perspective. So, I think that dynamic works really well, and he's been an absolute joy to have on the show. And sometimes don't know why he keeps coming back. Bless him, because I do rib him sometimes.
Well, that's fun, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have some fun.
It can be quite serious sometimes, and I don't do serious very often.
Barry says, Kate, you're awesome. You should be interviewing them. So I think Barry thinks you should be interviewing me and Jane.
I think you've got to come on Hair in the Hawthorn as guests.
Yeah, we'd love to. Absolutely love to.
So thanks very much for joining us.
But just before we pop off, where would people buy your book, Kate? If they're not Obviously you're going to have some at the ParaMeet, aren't you? But if people can't get to the ParaMeet, where can they buy the copy of the Woolly Snots?
Well, we're in the 2nd edition, and I am now under the publishers of Dead Good Publishing, which I just happen to have a copy here. And this is the guys from Haunted Magazine who have taken that up as a publication, and they took it into the World Wide Web world, and it can be purchased on Amazon, whereas I was just flogging it from my stall like some 19th century peddler, but now you can actually buy it on the internet in the appropriate 21st century.
That's good. Vicky says, "Save me one, please, Kate." So there you go.
Yes, and I want to get the link from Kate where that name again of that book, the one that's interlinking all the everything.
Yes. Yeah,
that's send me a link to that, because I'd love to
definitely will.
You ain't got time to read more books.
I've got my library now.
Yeah, but I've given you half a dozen tasks already, haven't I?
Yeah, and I'm working on them slowly.
And now I think we're gonna have to work on a series about the Fae.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll talk to Kate more about that, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks very much for being our guest. I'm really looking forward to seeing you again in 6 weeks.
6
lovely
weeks.
to chat to you. Really looking forward to catching up with you at the ParaMeet.
Thanks for everybody for watching and listening to us rabble on, and thanks for all the comments, and we will see you very soon.
So bye for now.